So preaching is endlessly fun. I do not know why more children are not encouraged to be preachers. Well, I do know why. It's because the fathers don't know what's going on, and they have no concept of holiness, salvation, evangelism, the power of preaching, the importance of words, yada, yada, yada. But there is nothing more needed in our very leaderless, very gloryless world than really smoking hot preachers. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, this has got to get attractive at some point. Like, at some point, there has got to be smoking hot preachers that also have miracles flowing through their veins that people just can't get enough of. I'm like, we need to bring back the holy names of God on the lips of men that can deliver this stuff with the right power, the right grace, the right beauty, in the right way, at the right volume. Like, preaching is amazing. Preaching is hard to come by. Good preaching is really hard to come by. It is. It's really hard to come by. The odds of a really good preacher growing up in the human race out of the masses of people that exist are very small. Like maybe 1 out of a million? Literally. 1 out of a million these days. I'm like, we need a revival. But like literally right now as I speak, that's practically the odds. It seems. It's like a good preacher is 1 in a million. Like, and I'm talking, man, when God raises up someone to be a preacher, it is mind-blowing. Like, it is just, you know how Hollywood makes movies about, you know, speeches and orators and famous lines and the protagonist shouting at the bad guy and like, epic Lord of the Rings like lines. I'm like, it's all fake, it's all rehearsed, we know that. It's all just little snippets of vocalization. But for a truly God-ordained, God-raised, God-infused, fathered preacher to rise up on planet Earth is so mind-blowing, and it is so attractive, and it is so epic. You would cry your eyes out if you actually saw the real goods with your own eyes on planet Earth. Like, I'm talking the very best that God can do. Like, I'm talking, let's be honest here, tall, handsome, dark, captivating, sharp-eyed, bold, loud, intelligent, knows his stuff, and just filled with the Spirit of God and literally hitting the words out of the park without a prescript, without a book in his hands, without anything, just preaching with indescribable beauty and power and God anointing. There is nothing like it. There is nothing like it. Like, you think you've seen entertainment. You think you've seen preaching is probably, especially open-air public preaching, when God, and it's all God, people, you cannot manufacture this. You cannot force yourself to do this. No one can force themselves to do this. Only God can raise up a person and anoint a person to do this. Because it's so tear-jerking, it's so gorgeous, it's so courageous, it's so beautiful, it's so bold, it's so captivating. When you see a God-ordained person lifting up his voice in public with the Spirit of God flowing through him, and the words that come out are from the Majesty on high, it is the most captivating, the most soul-grabbing, the most tear-jerking, the most beautiful, arresting, spine-tingling, brain-changing, everything-touching experience that you'll ever have. Seriously, is witnessing a great preacher and seeing this person with your eyes. If it's from God, if this person is from God, and this person is literally prepared by God, ordained by God, and called by God to be a preacher, you will be in shock at how captivating it is to stare at this person and listen to what this person has to say. And when they get voluminous, you'll be like, man, this guy is filled with something that I've never felt in my life. Like remember when the centurion, the Roman soldiers, came back, they were sent by the leaders to try and arrest Jesus, and they could not arrest him. They could not bring themselves to arrest him. And they came back saying, and the authorities said, "Why have you not arrested him?" And they said, "No one ever spoke like this man." They were so arrested, as it were, by the preaching of Jesus. They were dumb. They were cryptified. They were like totally just dumbfounded. They were completely arrested, and they couldn't do anything. They were just like, this is the most. Remember, Jesus was physically perfect. He was physically perfect. He was the supermodel. He was the supermodel bar none. Okay, that walked planet Earth. I got to set the record straight. When people quote that passage in Isaiah that says, "Oh, he has no form or beautiness that we should desire him," the prophet was seeing a vision of the marred Christ after he had been brutalized and punched and beaten and whipped and torn. Okay, and we know that because you read the entire context of that prophecy, and it flows right together with the suffering and the infliction of the wounds. And he has borne our transgressions, and by his stripes we are healed. But a true revelation from the Lord about what Jesus looked like while he walked this planet before he suffered, the passion and the suffering. He was the most physically gorgeous human the world has ever seen since the days of Adam. I personally believe he was even more good looking than Adam. Certainly equal, not a speck less than the beauty of Adam in the Garden of Eden. Probably superior. He was so breathtakingly beautiful that everyone stared at him everywhere he went. Okay, and then when Jesus spoke, it was like infinity beyond captivating. And that's why when the Roman centurions, and for a Roman legion to disobey orders, especially something as simple as arresting a weaponless man that's just wearing a white tunic, they say, "Why didn't you arrest him?" They say, "No one ever spoke like this man." And they were not just talking about the words that came out of his mouth. They were talking about the delivery. They were talking about the power. They were talking about the grace, the beauty, the form of Jesus speaking, the mannerisms, the pace at which he spoke, the details, the glory, the honor, the power, the volume, the poetry. They were just like, they were so taken aback. There's like, I've never, ever seen someone speak like this in my life. And that is power, okay? So we lack good preachers. Even more rare is a great preacher. Now, and this is where things get so divine. When you enter the realm of a God preacher, like everything is from the Lord. Like this is where it's like, if God calls you to preach, if God ordains you to preach, and gives you everything that is required to preach, including, fearlessness, courage, physical beauty. I believe that when God pulls out all the stops, there's going to be physical beauty, there's going to be height for authority purposes, there's going to be handsomeness, there's going to be piercing eyes, there's going to be, I'm like, no, give the person a strong jawline. Like it's going to be like, whoa, this person is really attractive when they speak. And I'm just entering the God zone. You have to dream. Like film directors do? Film directors want to cast the perfect person. Well, God is the infinitely perfect film director. He's like, I want to glorify myself through the creation of preaching. He's like, who should I use? Well, they got to be perfect for the job. It's like, and when God puts the perfect person in the perfect role, we all know that it's breathtaking for all of us to watch. Okay, so, but preachers are few and far between. Good preachers are few and far between, and God willing, I pray that changes. But now, even worse than good preachers being few and far between, good listeners are even fewer than good preachers. Well, not really. There's some good listeners out there, but you're just like, oh boy. Anyways, People, listen to God more than anything in private. He's the greatest speaker of all time. There you go. Well, fun stuff. But truly, you know, we live in an age that doesn't even understand the pleasure of preaching. They don't even have it on their list of, you know, pleasurable things that I can do in life. It's like all that this current generation seems to understand for pleasure is like food, alcohol, sex, you know, a fast car, you know, running around like crazy, doing weights at the gym, you know, extreme levels of exercise, you know, sports and, you know, swimming, rec, whatever. And it just seems to me that no one really understands the pleasure of preaching and the pleasure of practicing preaching. Billy Graham would practice preaching to the birds in private. Obviously, he loved it. But I would love to see a generation of men that just loves to preach, you know. I just love to talk about God. I just love to preach. And I don't care if I'm not that good at it yet, but I'm going to do what I do now. And maybe 10 years from now, I'll be a great preacher. Maybe 20, 30, 40 years from now. Maybe it'll take me that long. But maybe 40 years from now, Moses, it took that long. Moses was 80 years old before he started getting public. It might take you 40 years before you're a great preacher. But it'll be worth it, in my opinion, because we need great preachers. And great preachers are like, they're just so epic. Like, the world is looking for the epic, and that's why people are watching Hollywood movies. People are looking for the epic. They're like, great preaching is epic. It's very epic. We just, somehow, we lack the spirit, we lack the fire on certain subject matters. Ay, ay, ay. Well, truth that is spoken accurately really doesn't need a whole lot of volume. You know, there's a lot of unbelievable just vilenesses, highs. You know, portrayal in the movies that people need to get violence. You know, people need to shout. People need to vocalize themselves and scream and, you know, shout at the top of their lungs in order to be great or epic or worthy of attention. I'm like, no, you just need to be truthful. You need to talk about something that's worth talking about. You need to share some information that's worth hearing. Okay. You need to have a good heart behind what you're saying, and you need to have a good heart, you know, behind the vocalization that you're bringing to us. And I can receive your information. I can apply your truth to my life, and that's it. I'm like, people need to draw near to God. The truest you is only going to happen as you really desire God more and more all the time with all your heart. It's like, yes, you're cool the way you are now. But what will happen if you become even more like God? I would really like to see that. I want to see that for myself and for everyone. Okay? The Bible says, draw near to God and He'll draw near to you. Ask God for more. He's infinite. There's way more that's going to happen to you and in you and through you than any of us have ever dreamed.